Welcome back. Recently, there's been a string of movies with religious themes that have done very well at the box office. The movie Heaven is for Real is one of them. It's based on the real story and a New York Times best-selling book by the same name. The book is about Colton Burpo. He's a 4-year-old boy who had a near-death experience and sees heaven. How convincing is the story? Is heaven for real? And if so, what's it like? And is it possible to get a glimpse of heaven and then return to earth? Joining me to review Heaven is for Real, Dr. Shabir Ali, President of the Islamic Information Center. Dr. Shabir Ali, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
Now, this movie was wildly popular. 21.5 million it took in on Easter weekend alone. So this string of religious movies is proving very popular to people.
Yes, Heaven is for Real in particular has an appeal in that it speaks to the emotions of people who have lost relatives through death. And they're wondering, oh, where are my relatives now? Where is grandpa? Where is a miscarried child? And this story of Colton Burpo helps them to think that their lost ones are actually in heaven.
So Colton has a near-death experience. He goes through an operation, and then he believes that he visits heaven and sees his grandfather and his dead sister. Unborn sister, you should put it that way.
Yes. When he was about, close to 4 years old, he had this emergency operation to remove a ruptured appendix. And he came back out and nothing seemed to be made of it. Some months later, the family is going on a trip, and then for the first time, as they're passing by the hospital, and the father jokes, we can send you back there, he says, oh, that's where the angel sang to me. And now the father says, oh, the angel sang to you? And the response from the father then merits more elaboration, and the child elaborates, but only for a little bit, and then the subject changes and the story goes on. The story is now told in the words of the father. The father is telling us, this is what the child said, this is how we reacted, we left the matter alone, and then we came back to it a few months later and we asked him some more, and he gave a bit more detail, and then he ran off to play, and so on. And so the story is told in the words of the father, but also written by a skillful writer. I have with me here
the copy of the book,
copy of the book, the movie edition of Heaven is for Real. And the book is written together with Lynn Vincent, who is a skilled writer.
So you seem skeptical about how much of the story is actually Colton's.
Yes, because it's largely told through the father, and the father seems to be teasing out the details from the child, and one wonders if the child was just simply left to describe spontaneously what he had experienced, if the description would have been much shorter, and also very different. It seems that the father, by probing some more and obviously responding with appreciation for these details, the child has been adding more details over time.
So this boy Colton, he said he saw Jesus in heaven riding on a horse, a rainbow-colored horse. He sat on Jesus' lap while the angels sang. He saw Mary as well. How realistic is this account? I mean, is it possible for someone to go and see what's in heaven and come back to earth?
We cannot say that something is impossible, because to deny something really requires evidence, which we wouldn't have in this case. In Islamic theology,
have any
we understand.
religious figures done that in the past?
There have been many reports of people in America in particular who have had what is reported as a near-death experience. A large amount of people, to my surprises, have reviewed this. But I said we cannot rule out the possibility entirely, because we wouldn't have the evidence by which we can rule out such a possibility. From within the Islamic faith, we understand that people die once, and then it's like a one-way valve. You go and you do not come back. The Quran says that people will be asking for reprieve. Send me back into the world, because I've got some good deeds left that unfinished, and I want to do those. And the reply from God is that this won't happen. There is a separating wall, which is referred to in Arabic as barzakh, between you and the world that you left behind. And so it will remain until the day of judgment. So we live once, we die, and then we face the judgment. So that's from within Islamic theology. From the scientific point of view, one can only gather all of these reports and analyze them and try to determine the credibility of each report on its own merits.
So let's examine this case then. What are the merits of this case?
For one thing, we can say that to give the benefit of the doubt, the child has experienced something. His first mention of this is about the angel singing to him, but then. The details that were teased out of him over the years, over many years, because the incident occurred in 2003, and the book was, well, the first public announcement of this was in 2007, and then the book was written and published 2010. So we have like over 7 years, the details that are worked out through teasing out from, asking the child questions and then responding, and then the child obviously would be encouraged to give more details, even details that did not actually occur. And the father seems to be quite credulous, not only with respect to his own son's story, but he himself relates that once, after he had delivered a sermon in a church, he is a pastor himself. A little girl tugged on her mommy's dress and said, "Mommy, why is it that some people in the church have lights over their heads and some other people don't?" So the pastor takes this girl's observation to be real. Some people have the lights, which are obviously visible to this girl, and some people don't have the lights. And the pastor thinks that children at this innocent age are able to see things that adults are not able to see. And he ties that in with passages from the Gospels where it is said that Jesus said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." So Jesus paid special attention to children. And Jesus seemed to have indicated that you cannot enter the kingdom of God except as little children. So you have to become childlike, and that is the pure faith. So it seems that he wants to believe that children are able to see things which adults are not able to see.
Whereas a simpler explanation would just be that children have a very vivid imagination.
That would be one explanation, and we can tie to that the fact that many paintings from medieval times displayed prominently in religious settings would show some people with lights over their heads, halos, and only a few people would have those. So if the girl thinks she is observing a similar thing in church, who knows, maybe she was just asking about a painting that she saw. But more details need to be explored, and one needs to approach this in a scientific way, which this pastor does not seem to have done.
Do you think he was exploring things in light of his own religious understanding then?
Yes, and he would tie things in with the Bible. The child would say one thing, and his mind would race towards passages of the Bible, passages that he does not seem to have to look up, like he just knows these from his memory. And he does not seem to be aware that he might have discussed these passages many times. For example, if he is describing something that the child saw, he would relate that to a passage that describes something similar in the Bible with regards to heaven. And he's wondering, how could my child have known that? Not realizing that he might have taken the child along to one of his sermons, the child might have heard that. He doesn't pay attention to the fact that the child has an older sister, Cassie, nearly 3 years older than the boy, who might have shared certain details with him. And nowhere in the book does he make reference to conversations between Cassie and Colton. And this is surprising because when it is mentioned that Colton spoke about visiting his dead sister in heaven, the sister who was miscarried within 2 months of pregnancy, the parents are surprised. How did he know this? We only shared this detail with Cassie, the sister. But it didn't occur to them to ask Cassie, did you tell Colton this? They're just taking it for granted that Colton did actually meet his miscarried sister in heaven.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that, Dr. Shabir Ali. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break, and when we return, we will answer questions we received from you, our viewers.